Sound check 1 2, test 1 2, Case Western Reserve University Soccer. Sound check 1 2 3 4.
Did you say the same thing? What do I say?
Just count to 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And good evening, and welcome to DeSanto Field in Cleveland, Ohio for tonight's NCAA quarterfinal game between Case Western Reserve University, the host and currently ranked 19th in Division III, and Calvin College, number 4 in Division III. Both of these teams fighting for their right into the semifinals 2 weeks from yesterday in Greensboro, North Carolina. Welcome, everybody. I'm John Schwartz. Alongside me is Marcy Schwartz, Case Western Reserve and Calvin College just about a minute and a half or so away from getting started here. And both coming off of two very different wins from the other ones yesterday. Case Western Reserve, I guess not a win at all. It was a tie and then a shootout that allowed them to advance. It went 5 rounds of the shootout, and Case Western Reserve winning that 5-4 and a save by goalkeeper Charlie Fink on the final shot. For Calvin, it was a close game in the first half, but the Knights, who were applying pressure all day, started to find the net in the second half and ended up winning that one 4-1. So, again, two teams with two very different paths in their the semifinals of these sectionals, and now they're playing the sectional finals here today. Marcy, the differences that you saw between these two teams, and particularly the way they advanced to this round, how do you think that'll affect the style of play here today?
I think that we're going to see some very good soccer today. I think we're going to see two different styles of soccer. I think you're going to be looking a little bit more direct out of the Spartans, looking for Bezel up top with Winter right underneath, looking to use the flanks as they've continued to do. I think obviously with the Knights, you're going to find a little bit more of an indirect style, the connection through the units, working the ball, a little bit more of that technical and possession style, and then seeing if they can advance to their power 5 up top.
Initial possession goes to Calvin, but it's taken back by the Spartans. A little volleying back and forth here as we are underway in the quarterfinals of the NCAA Division III Championships. Throwing from the far side for Case Western Reserve, that's Brian Wu. And we'll get another shot at a throw in here as that one's headed out. This one's sent forward. Bessel trying to run on it. Battling for it and taking it away on the far side was Sam Twig, and he'll send it forward. Taken back by the Case Western Reserve defense. If you've not seen this Case Western Reserve team play before, it is a team that relies very heavily defensively on its two center backs, two very talented players, in Christian Lytle and Nathan Ekberg. Ekberg also a threat on set pieces to score. He had the first goal of the game for the Spartans yesterday in their 2-2 tie with Kenyon. Coming forward now with the ball here on the early attack is Weldy. Dylan Weldy for Calvin. Swings it now to the near side, Ian Adams. Adams back out, where it's taken by Daniel Norton. Norton back now looking for Adams, trying to work his way in. Calvin meticulous in the early going here. And that's sent forward. Trying to run on that one was Winter for Case Western Reserve, but it'll be set back to the defense here. Drew Van Andel will head one back to his goalkeeper. That's Trent Vector, with the ball, and keep an eye on Vector, one of, I should say, the best defenders in the country. Now set back. Van Andel again. Middle of the field. Now to the far side off the leg of the defender and a throw in for Case Western Reserve. Marcy, let's talk for a second about Case Western Reserve. And again, having the kind of game they had yesterday where, they had to play a full 110 minutes, had to play a very high-stress shootout as well. What effect does that have on a team coming forward on short rest, just 24 hours rest, bouncing back today?
I actually had a good conversation with Coach Brandon Bianco of the Spartans earlier about that exact idea, and the idea that the freshness will be key. And while, obviously the Spartans played a little bit longer, they also had a couple of hours extra recovery because they played the first game yesterday. So I think that's going to play a part. I know that the coaches were very much hounding and talking with them about their recovery. Ice baths we heard actually after the press conference yesterday. They were talking about continued stretching, continued movement, hydration. Even though it's cold out, you don't realize you're getting hydrated. So various things like that just to make sure that the legs are fresh since they had to use a lot of their, starters and a little bit more consistently than Calvin did, especially toward the end of that second half.
Battling for a ball there in the backfield. It was Nevo Ziv for Case Western Reserve and Ian Adams for Calvin College. The Spartans win out on that battle, are able to clear it away, and now an attack downfield here. Senft trying to run on it. Senft a player to look out for here for the Spartans. Creative player up top. Counterattack here by Calvin. That was Hunter Olson who scored the first goal of the game for Calvin yesterday. Possession, though, back to Case Western Reserve. Long ball forward. Can Senft run up on it? He does. Trying to work around Vector, Swings it far side. Ball bounced towards the middle and rolls harmlessly to the defense. Well, one of the things that Calvin head coach Ryan Souders said about this Case Western Reserve team is they can strike quickly and they can strike without warning. And you almost saw that there. And particularly with Zachary Senft, who's such a creative player, has the ability to hurt you in a number of different ways.
An interesting part is just the two philosophies and the methodologies that the two teams are using. You have Case in what I call a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-5-1, but they're two outside mids, you got to call them, in Zachary Senft and in Monta. They can attack so quickly and they have so much speed that they can get up with their lone forward, and it almost appears that they're attacking in a 4-3-3, but they're defending in a 4-5-1. And it's a very common formation that a lot of teams use, especially in today's day and age, because it allows you to get so many numbers behind the ball, but then attack with so many numbers. And with Garrett Winter being as quick as one of the ones out there, he could overlap Bezel and create that momentum that Bezel can then drop back and help defend. Whereas when you look at Calvin, they're keeping three high in that 4-3-3, so they're constantly putting pressure on the defensive end, whereas you're getting one team in the Spartans attacking from deep. You're getting the Knights who are staying high and kind of putting ultimate pressure, looking for turnovers, and attacking from high. So it's two very different styles of play.
Play back to the Calvin keeper, Chris Morrish, the sophomore out of Bradenton, Florida. And we welcome you if you're just joining us here today. I'm John Schwartz, alongside me, Marcy Schwartz. This is Monta coming up the far side. To the middle of the field. Senft deflects that one wide. Durnell gives off now to Ziv. And taken back by the defense. Sam Twigg, the freshman out of Auckland, New Zealand, tracking that one down. Well, if you're a Calvin fan out there, certainly a busy afternoon for you and your evening. In fact, in particular, this 7 o'clock hour is going to be a busy one for you. Near side here, this is Ziv. Ziv launches one, but that shot will go high, and we have our first attempt on net here today, and Nevo Ziv with the shot. For Calvin, not just an NCAA quarterfinal here. In fact, if you're an overall Calvin athletics fan, tonight's the kind of night you want to have that picture-in-picture going, because you have, obviously, the soccer team playing here and then their volleyball team playing Emory for the national championship. And just to put this on the table, I work for Case Western Reserve, and I'm an Emory graduate, so Calvin and I are not friends this evening. Just kidding. But a big night for that program. An experienced Calvin team. They're looking for their third trip in the last 4 years to the NCAA semifinals. They've been in the Sweet 16 all 4 years. 13 NCAA tournament wins, now 14 for the class after their win last night. Played up. Calvin threatening, starting to push numbers forward. They're going to swing wide. It's Adams. Actually, that was Norton who came all the way up from the backfield there in the attack, and he'll force the corner. So our first corner kick of the game.
One thing that we saw yesterday that was a big threat from Calvin on the corners is they always sent 2 players wide on that corner, which opened up versatility and options. You saw sometimes they took a long ball in, but a lot of times they looked to go short.
That one punched out by Fink. Second chance opportunity potentially for Calvin. Launched into the box. Header attempt on goal. No, cleared wide. Stays in the 18-yard box before it is finally cleared out and again put right back in. And it was the senior co-captain for Case Western Reserve, Christian Lytle, who was able to get that one out for good. Pressure continuing to come on here. Ekberg runs up on it, dekes the defender around him, and lets it go past the end line.
In regards to the attack from both teams, it's very interesting because both teams have to make a couple of decisions as to when they want those defenders to attack. Both the Spartans and the Knights are looking this game, which neither one of them did too much last game, of looking to attack using their outside backs, which will give you numbers on the flank and allow those forwards and those outside mids for the Spartans to kind of intertwine and work with each other. They don't have to stay wide because every team in the game needs width. You need width from somewhere. So if you can get it from your outside backs, it will open up the opportunity for players to cut central and create more diagonal runs.
Manta, nice play in the middle of the field, gives off to Bessel, who sends it to the end line. This is Senft. And they will call him offsides, I believe. Indeed, Senft offsides on that one. So an early opportunity there. And again, Senft the guy that if he can get a little bit of space along that end line, he is so creative in the ways he can get the ball into the middle of the box. That's how Senft scored in the team's opening game of the NCAA tournament against Keystone last week. Mentioned it's a big day for Calvin. Big day for Case Western Reserve here as well. Nice showing at the NCAA Cross Country Championships, which were held today in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Men's team finished 21st overall. Ball deflected out. Shot attempt. Shot goes wide. That was Jacob Whitty in search of his 17th goal of the year, but sends it wide of the net. The Grand Rapids, Michigan product. Not a far trip for him at all to go to Calvin College. Grand Rapids Christian High School, the senior trying to put the first strike on the board. A 3-time MIAA first-team selection. He was a second-team All-American last year. So Calvin looking dangerous early on here. But I think, Marcy, we're kind of seeing this play out to a certain extent the way that we thought it would, where Case Western Reserve has been dangerous on those quick strikes, but Calvin has done a little bit of a better job building early on here.
I think this is a little bit going to be a game of the flanks, is what I want to call it. You see both teams are really trying to attack wide. They're looking to isolate players one-on-one. They're looking to pull, defenders to the side, shift the back line, and then quickly counter either a ball through the center or a ball on the opposite side to a weak side player. But both teams really are trying to just separate the field, use the width of this football field in front of us, and look to just attack centrally with combinations, with one-on-one attacks, with long balls and then running onto them. But it's interesting how they're kind of avoiding the center of the field in regards to moving the ball into the attack.
A free kick there awarded after a foul that Calvin head coach Ryan Souders was not particularly pleased about. Headed forward, though, in Case Western Reserve, a chance here. Senft, though, gets it taken away. A little back heel attempt, and the Spartans recover it. Drew Van Andel was trying to keep the ball moving forward, but ends up going out of play. And a throwing up coming for Case Western Reserve. Or did they call the foul on that one? Yeah, it's another foul. And so from the far side, the free kick upcoming, and I believe that is Garrett Winter who will take it. Or is that Ekberg on the far side?
I think it's Weber who's taking it.
I'm sorry, it is Weber. Third time's the charm. Weber dangerous on these opportunities. That went in there, headed up by Ekberg, and cleared away. Bessel trying to keep it in play. Heads it over kicks it over his head and out past the end line. And a goal kick upcoming here for Chris Morrish. Well, Marcy, it's something we were talking about before the game. The connection that Weber and Ekberg have with each other has been dangerous all year long, including yesterday's game when Ekberg scored the first goal of the game for Case Western Reserve off a Weber free kick.
When you have a true target like Ekberg, who's coming from the back, who's strong, who's tall, and has an elevation or a vertical that he can get over players, you have to offset that early. And it might not be necessarily, you don't want to foul in the box. You got to be very careful about it, but you want to send a message that you're not going to get to win these balls out of the air so easily. And especially with that connection, Weber is looking for Ekberg as the target. Case is looking in the air for Ekberg as the target. So you need to make sure that you're constantly marked, constantly tracking your mark as they make those runs, and then challenging for balls in the air. You cannot give him a clean ball, as that's going to be very dangerous.
You know, Ekberg yesterday was credited with 5 shots, 2 of which were on goal. Again, he's a center back. Clearly, there's no hiding the fact that Case Western Reserve and Weber in particular is looking for Ekberg on those. How do you continue to disguise that if you're Case Western Reserve and find new ways to sneak him in there? Is there something that they're doing that's allowing him to get these opportunities, or is he strictly outplaying the defender?
If you're that good at what you do, you don't have to hide things. We talk about this in various things that, a lot of players at the international level, they have 2 or 3 foot skills that they use in a game. And I'm comparing a little bit of ball in the air to ball on the ground. But if you can use that same move over and over, it doesn't matter who's defending you. You can still beat them. Same thing here. If Ekberg is that good at timing balls out of the air, and obviously the delivery is right to where it needs to be, he can read the flight of the ball. He could check and make a diagonal run. He drops back to make the deceptive and then checks in. You just have to stay with that mark, and you have to just deny the opportunity.
So Case Western Reserve and Calvin, about 16 minutes into the game, still scoreless here, not at 0-0. Ian Adams, excuse me. Long ball forward. Vector heads it right back to the Case Western Reserve attack. This will be Bessel on the near side. Bessel spins out towards the middle. Shot on the way, just a little wide, and diving on top of it is the keeper Morrish on the shot attempt there by Winter. Once again, a rowdy crowd here at DeSanto Field. Nice showing on what's actually become a pretty nice evening here for a late November day in Cleveland. Yesterday, just cold. It was not particularly rainy during the game, but certainly earlier in the day, as the foul will be called there. And I think fairly blatant there as Winter had a bit of a push on Jacob Lyon. So now a bit of an advantageous spot here for Calvin. Hunter Olsen looks like he'll be on top of this one. And he has a quick conversation with Vector, who has scored 3 goals this season. And Vector will run in, and we'll see if he's the target here. Ball comes into the middle. Low line drive shot. Second chance attempt. And it looked like it deflected off a Case Western Reserve player and above the net. Fink, a jumping attempt on it. But again, no save needed, but this will set up a corner kick from the far side. And yesterday we saw Calvin take a lot of these corners short. We'll see if that's their game plan here today. Corner kick from the far side of the field. That one headed away. Second chance through traffic, and Fink smothers it. Well, Charlie Fink, a freshman goalkeeper, but has stood up tall in goal this season, including yesterday in the penalty kicks. Fink out of Akron, Ohio, Revere High School, who I believe just lost in the state finals, if I'm not mistaken. But Fink, a very talented young keeper, and has showed a lot of poise here in the NCAA tournament. But one of the advantages you have in playing in the UAA, which had 5 of their 8 teams make the tournament, as that one ricochets over to Fink, is that you get tournament tested very early in your season. In the UAA, you probably had 8 teams who could all win at least a first-round NCAA tournament game this year. It was a stacked field in the UAA all season long, including Chicago, who for a while was the number 1 team in the nation, at least until they played Case Western Reserve and lost. Speaking of which, for Calvin, who comes into the game at 21-0 on the season, their only loss of the year was to the University of Chicago. That one rolls past the end line, and a goal kick upcoming now for Moorish. Pace seems to have settled in a little bit here after a frantic couple of minutes.
I think both of these teams know that it's going to be a game of minutes. It's going to be a game that every single minute is going to count in this match, because both teams know what's on the line. They both know how strong and hard they're going to have to play. I talked to both coaches, and both coaches have a lot of respect for each other. They know that the other one is going to bring everything that they have. I know that Coach Bianco mentioned to just the message before tonight's game was just going to be to enjoy this moment, to play for one another, put everything into tonight's performance, and be at our best in critical moments, is what kind of he talked about. Whereas I asked the same question over to Coach Souders, and he mentioned that he wants to make sure that if they're going to go down, they're going to go down being the best version of what we've done all year. They want to beat us. So I think they both plan to just stick to their identity, do what they know how to do, which has gotten them both to this point, and hope that it could be better than their opponent on this field.
Well, 2 very talented teams here. Speaking of talented teams, let's get you an update here on the bracket with some of the other quarterfinals that, again, we are a day ahead of everybody else. The other 3 NCAA sectional rounds all began today. We had a Friday-Saturday draw because of Calvin's no play on Sunday policy. So the quarterfinal round here today in sectional semifinal action, as a foul called there, and we'll get another opportunity for a free kick. Messiah defeated SUNY Cortland 3-2, and Rochester defeated Eastern 1-0, and so Messiah will take on Rochester at 1 p.m. tomorrow. That game was originally supposed to be played at Messiah, but instead is at Rochester because the Messiah field was covered in snow and ice. So 1 o'clock tomorrow, quarterfinal match between Messiah and Rochester. Free kick coming here into the middle of the field. Dangerous header towards the middle, and Lytle knocks it away. Good free kick into the box by Hunter Olson. And I believe we will get a foul call there as well, and that will allow Fink to boot this one away. On the top half of the bracket, Chicago defeated Trinity 2-0. That being played in Chicago. Luther defeated St. Thomas 1-0. And so Chicago versus Luther in that quarterfinal match. And then Tufts with a 3-0 win over Amherst. And we will get a foul called there. Or no, a throw-in. Quick throw comes. Sem sets it back. Winter lofts one. Pardon me, that's Weber who lofts it in looking for Winter. But it gets cleared away. So, again, Tufts defeating Amherst, and then Montclair State a 3-0 win over Ramapo. And so Tufts versus Montclair State tomorrow at 1. And by the middle of the day, we should know, at least late afternoon, our 4 NCAA semifinalist teams. One of these 2 will be in, either Calvin or Case Western Reserve. It's been a fairly evenly played match so far. Maybe a few extra opportunities for Calvin. Again, just very evenly played here.
You have to wonder a little bit if the reason that Calvin's getting these chances is just because they're always having three in the attack, and three very good players at that, who've scored a lot of goals over the course of their time. I mean, you have McCaw, who's obviously scored 20. You have Olsen, who've scored 11. And you have Whitty, who's scored 16. Or, I'm sorry, I think Olsen got one yesterday, so he's at 12 now, and then Whitty has 16. So, I mean, that's a lot of goals between them. That's a lot of experience in the attack, and it's a lot of understanding on how to play together. So they're always attacking with those three with some midfielders underneath, whereas Case is looking for kind of Bezel to start it, turn some turnovers, Winter underneath, and then, again, those two midfielders coming in from deep. So it's almost a delay attack that's occurring.
Get another free kick here. You can see this game is already being called a little bit tighter, I think, than our two games yesterday. A lot of whistles early on here. This will be a free kick from the far side of the field for Calvin. Calvin in the dark uniforms. Case Western Reserve, the light ones. Lytle clears that one away. Second chance opportunity. But the flag goes up. It's offsides. Eric Weisbrod is our referee. Assistant referees are Brian Miller and Eric Tattersall. And then Noah Matos is our fourth official, which for those of you who follow NCAA, at least Division III soccer during the regular season, the fourth official is a rarity. But here for the NCAA tournament, a mandate instead, and having that official on the sideline is certainly useful. Trying to turn the corner. Cleared away again. Calvin has looked dangerous here, but nothing to show for it as Ekberg turns that one aside and keeps it in play. Good job by Ekberg to avoid a potential corner kick situation.
Something that we've seen a lot of over the course of the Spartans' play throughout the season is Brian Wu really attacking from that left side as an outside back. Yesterday, however, he stayed at home a little bit more. They focused on staying compact, squeezing the central, and then giving the outside a little bit. But today he's actually, again, going back up and attacking. The dilemma is Calvin is trying to exploit that area. That's the third time they've tried to combine around and attack the space that's occurring behind him, and it's forcing Ekberg to shift over, which can create tons of gaps in a three-back because Wu's out of position. So it's one thing that they're going to have to make sure that they offset it and Wu checks back quickly, or Weber or another holding mid drops into that space to make sure that they have enough defenders.
And there you see that exact opportunity occurring here. And that time, it was Weber who had to drop back to cover him. It's one thing that Brandon Bianco has preached to his team, not just this season, but for a number of years now. As Vector comes forward, collision, but no call. I'd have had a continuation there as that one shot high. But Brandon Bianco preaches to his team that their offense needs to feed off its defense and, in fact, play defense. And I think that's a big reason why that allows you to, as you said, bring Brian Wu forward when you're playing 11-man defense, so to speak.
I think you need to pick and choose your options, though, because the problem is you have 4 defenders, and Calvin already has 3, no matter what, before the game starts, because they're playing a 4-3-3 with 3 forwards. So if you're man-to-man with only 1 extra defender and you attack, you're automatically now even numbers, because now you have 3 defenders against 3 forwards. So one of your players has to almost stay back or drop very quickly. Otherwise, you're going to be in a numbers down situation defensively, which is never a good situation, especially with a quick Calvin team coming at you.
Well, and then I imagine you add to that the fact that Vector has a tendency to sometimes play aggressively forward too, and that, even though it leaves you, certainly some opportunities for a counter, certainly puts the numbers even more in Calvin's favor.
And that's, again, where your weak side mid may be the one who drops back. You may be looking for Monta to drop if Senft is attacking. But that's something where Calvin will have opportunities if they can very quickly, precisely, technically exploit that area before it's organized defensively.
Well, let's look at this from the other side, too. And I'll ask you this, is that, one of the things that Coach Souders said was, hey, Case Western Reserve is a team that can score quickly and unpredictably. Um, do they have a certain concern with moving some of their guys up if that's the case? Do you want Vector to stay home against a team like that a little bit more than he might, against a team that might score in a more, conservative fashion, that might try to piece passes together a little bit more?
Well, and it's interesting because Coach Bianco actually mentioned that he's aware of Vector's, sometimes overzealousness to get forward.
Here's a chance. Long shot, and it's just wide. That was Jacob Lyon. Launches one wide of net, but a good look there. Had some space in the middle of the field to work, but unable to park it home. And we'll get our first substitutions of the game as Senft and Bessel will check out. It will be Magruder coming into the game, and I believe Justin Recklau as well coming in. Selden Magruder provides a different dimension up top for the Spartans. More of a target forward necessarily than a speed player like Bessel is. Has a foul called there, and this will be a free kick from midfield. Vector plays it short. When you see a team play it short like that, how much of that is just improvised and how much of that is planned out as something they know they want to try to do before the game starts?
Yeah, restarts are something that coaches talk about a lot. Something that I did when I was coaching at the college game, and something that my team did is we broke the field into kind of thirds, but it wasn't exact thirds. So we would say maybe from our goal line up to about the 50 or so is what we called zone 3. From the 50 to maybe about the 30 on the football field, if I'm looking at it, the 30 in your defensive end is zone 2, and then the 30 to the other goal line is zone 1. And your job was always to get the ball to zone 1. And it could be short passes to get there or long passes to get there, but you're not looking to shoot in zone 2 or zone 3. So if you see that you have the opportunity to go short, you might work the ball from 3 to 2 to 1 instead of bypassing 2 and going straight to 1.
Well, speaking of zone 1, this will be a free kick from right on the edge of zone 1. It'll be out from the wing. Hunter Olsen will take it. We've seen him take a good number of the set pieces so far. A dangerous opportunity here. And again, Vector moves into the box, and we'll see if he tries to make a run on it. Dangerous bouncing ball deflected away by Fink. Boy, I think Fink was waiting for someone to run onto that, and instead had to play a ball that had some spin on it and just deflected away past the end line, and now we'll get a free kick from the far side. This is Adams to the far side to take it. Corner kick, I should say, from the far side. Well, Calvin has been threatening here in the last few minutes. Kick taken short. Adams comes back on it, sends one in, and it's cleared away. Darnell, the freshman, clears that one out. And finally, after it comes back in, Fink secures it. Again, scoreless into the latter third of the first half. Forward with it is Weldy. Gives it up to the defense. Ekberg. That one's sent forward. Winter battling. Weber came away with it, but taken back again. And this will be Vector coming forward with it. The senior out of Hudsonville, Michigan. A first-team All-American last year. Earned his second straight first-team All-America honor. The D3Soccer.com National Defender of the Year last year. On track to potentially earn that award once again. He earned his second straight MIAA MVP award. This is Adams working against the defense. He'll take a shot that sails just high. And we'll get a slew of substitutions here for Case Western Reserve. Nope. They will Send them back temporarily. And now they'll be ushered onto the field. Josh Wargo, Brady Dalton out there. Looks like Winter, Darnell, and Ziv will all check out. So again, scoreless. Lytle clears that one away. No whistle. Nothing yet. No. Looked like there might have been a push there as Recklow went down. Magruder, nice ball back. Forward again. Can Magruder run on it? He does. To the middle of the field, trying to work around the defender past the end line. And it will be a goal kick. And Magruder did not like that call, arguing with the referee, Eric Weisbrod, but no call change there. And the goal kick coming up. Probably one of the better opportunities we've seen today for Case Western Reserve. And it shows you Magruder, who is kind of a big guy, you assume a target forward, but has some foot skills as well.
The problem, though, with it, again, is just that because Case is playing it with one forward and a bunch of mids underneath, is the midfield as a whole. You had 4 guys who were delayed on that. They were a couple of seconds behind him, and Magruder actually broke himself in, got himself in line, turned around, there's nobody with him. So he had to slow down as he attacked that end line, and unfortunately didn't get the call that he wanted, but he made the right decision to go for the corner as he didn't see an opportunity for a cross as he had nobody central.
Scoreless game here. Case Western Reserve and Calvin. The quarterfinals of the NCAA championships. Again, the furthest Case Western Reserve has ever made it. Fun fact, Case Western Reserve head coach Brandon Bianco, the last time the Spartans were in the NCAA Sweet 16 before last night was 2006. They lost in penalty kicks to Ohio Wesleyan, and who was taking the penalty kicks for Ohio Wesleyan? The 4th penalty kick taken by none other than Brandon Bianco. And yes, he did make it. 12 years later, he is coaching this Case Western Reserve team that has advanced further than any team in program history. And with a win today, it would assure Case Western Reserve the best finish for a team in any sport in program history. The previous best finish was a 5th place finish by the softball team this past spring. And Calvin fans will be happy to know that Case Western Reserve defeated Hope as Magruder in. Shot is in for the goal! Selden Magruder into the box, launches a shot into the upper 90, and a perfect goal for Magruder has Case Western Reserve leading 1-0 with 8 minutes left in the opening half. Magruder comes to the stands to celebrate his 2nd goal of the sectional round. His 8th goal now of the season. And it is 1-0 Case Western Reserve. The Spartans strike first. Well, Magruder looked dangerous already today, and another opportunity there. This time makes the shot stick. 1-0 Spartans. And the crowd here at Case Western Reserve has erupted. Chance of let's go Case coming from the fans in attendance. Selden Magruder, the sophomore, came a long way, Los Angeles, California, to get here. And again, just parked one in the upper 90. Beautiful goal for Magruder. Whistle blows, throw in for Case Western Reserve.
Well, it was a great goal for Magruder. He's having to do things a little bit more on his own right now. Case has made a change, obviously a substitution, and they've put in Josh Wargo to play a little bit more of that number 10 or that attacking mid role, as they probably are giving Garrett Winter a little bit of a rest from playing so many minutes yesterday. But they play a little bit different style, as Wargo plays a little bit more defensive in that role, whereas Winter almost is like a second forward. So when Bezel and Winter were starting, you almost saw two different attackers coming, whereas Magruder's a little bit more by his lonesome up there. So he kind of had to go one-on-one to isolate defenders, and then obviously made a good foot skill move, beat him one-on-one, and then found the back of the net.
Well, if you're Case Western Reserve, you can't back off now. Have to stay active here. You're facing a team that has scored 88 goals in 21 games this season, so you kind of have the feeling that this is probably not a 1-0 game when it's all said and done.
Absolutely. If you could put a second one in quick, that's going to change things. And again, it's those first 2 or 3 minutes right after a goal is scored where everybody's momentum is up, everybody's elevation is up. The team that scored is on a high because they're excited. The team that got scored on is obviously upset and also feels a little bit more pressure now. So those 2 to 3 minutes kind of right after a goal is scored, and then obviously creeping on the last 5 minutes of the half are going to be very important minutes in this game to see if one team can kind of get another opportunity to either solidify a 2-0 lead or get back in the game in a 1-1 environment.
Well, and it's something that Brandon Bianco said about his team is that, listen, we're going to ask guys to empty their tank today. You know, they had a long, emotional game yesterday. But we're going to ask our guys to empty their tank. And coming up in the last 5 minutes of the half is that one dangerous ball out in front of the net. Can it be cleared out of the box? It can. Back to the point is that Brandon Bianco's, you know, he may ask his guys, listen, we have 5.5 minutes left in this half. We may have to give a little bit of extra effort here, apply the pressure, and really give Calvin something to think about heading into the break. But that is what happened in yesterday's game where the Spartans were trailing Kenyon 1-0 with about 5 minutes left in the half, and then a quick goal on a header by Ekberg, and then a Selden Magruder goal, and it made it a 2-1 game heading into the break and really changed the face of that game very quickly. Chipped into the box as Lytle trying to clear it out, still in a dangerous spot, and finally Fink will handle this without a problem.
Well, and I think both teams actually, not necessarily came down. The Spartans came down from a deficit, but even the Knights weren't down in a deficit, but what they viewed as a deficit, where they were the favorite coming in, and it was 0-0 at half, which is not something that they were looking at. I think they expected to be up a little bit quicker, and then ended up winning the game 4-1. So it just shows that both of these teams are going to fight all the way until the very end of the game, because again, you lose and go home today. So it's a state of mental preparation. It's a state of mental fitness as much as physical fitness that you have to go through and be able to push yourself and your body and your mind to play at 100% for the duration of the 90 minutes.
So 4:20 left to play in the first half. 1-0 Case Western Reserve. On top of Calvin in the NCAA quarterfinals. Nice job by Lytle. Slide tackle to clear it out. Midfield Magruder trying to turn on it as he heads it forward. There's been a gritty Case Western Reserve team all season long, and again showing it here. That ball forward nicely played into the box though, and Fink will have it. And again, I imagine if you're Calvin, you're not deviating from your game plan yet. You're still trying to do, your normal game plan in this situation because you are a team that can, in the normal run of play, run off 4 goals in a game. So no reason to really change anything yet. You have to feel confident that you're still clearly in this, only trailing 1-0.
It's very, very early. And even if you go into the half 1-0, first 5 of the second half can always make or break a game. So, it's one of those things you would like to go in, being even and having a tie game, but it's not urgent mode just yet.
And by the way, not a dissimilar first half today for Calvin to what we saw yesterday when they played Penn State Barron, I think, to the extent that they, again, you mentioned it was scoreless, but they had a lot of opportunities to score, and maybe not quite as many opportunities today for them, but they certainly have had their share, some good balls in the box, and they just haven't been as aggressive maybe on goal, haven't found the right shot opportunities. And the big difference is that Case Western Reserve has the lead right now, although certainly threatening here are the Knights. Swung out, long ball in. Can someone get a head on it? No. Second chance, shot blocked. And will go out of play, and I believe a corner upcoming. Indeed, there will be one. For the Calvin fans out there, the National Championship Volleyball game through the first set, Emory with a 1-0 lead, and now leading 11-6 in the second set. Middle of the field, header, and then Fink is able to get a hand on it. What a save by Charlie Fink. He had to dive and poke it over the top of the bar, and it forces another corner kick. Adams again from the far side. Pardon me, this will actually be Owens. Again in the middle, dangerous chance. And boy, Fink came all the way out. Was that cleared off the line?
No, I think the referee, I don't know if he's calling it for Case or if he's calling it a penalty kick. I think he just called a penalty kick.
A penalty kick called.
I think he called a handball in the box, but I could be wrong on what the call was. But he immediately went to that line and called it. So he saw it very, very clear.
Well, this could be a game changer now with 1:05 left. The clock is stopped. A penalty kick upcoming. To take it for Calvin is Jacob Whitty, the senior. 16 goals on the year. So the penalty kick upcoming. Charlie Fink made a save on the penalty kick in the shootout yesterday. This is Whitty. He takes it and converts. And it is 1-1. So Whitty with his 17th goal. And Calvin has found the answer. They add a few seconds back onto the clock, so it'll be 1:17 as play resumes again. Vector set to throw in. Wu to the middle. Wargo. Taken back by the defense, and I think after the flurry of activity in the last few minutes, I was going to say both teams may be content to play this one out, but Calvin pressuring. Lytle played forward. Far side, Recklau. Back to the keeper. He'll have to keep it at his feet. Pressure put on by the Spartans now. Monte came forward trying to divert that one. Or pardon me, that was Clem. Middle of the field, last chance here. This is Winter. He's got a chance to shoot from distance here, but instead sends it in. And that will end the first half. If anyone could have taken a shot from distance there in this Case Western Reserve team, or at least anyone's a threat to, it would have been Winter. But instead it rolls harmlessly out, and that will end the first half. 1-1 the score, and after what was 35 minutes of scoreless soccer, we had a flurry at the end. The Magruder goal coming with 8 minutes left in the first half clock. And then after that, we had the penalty kick on what we believe was a handball called in the box. And the score now even at 1-1 after Whitty converted the penalty kick for his 17th goal of the season for Calvin. So we will head into the second half, all knotted here at 1-1. And again, we'll be back with you in a little bit. Calvin and Case Western Reserve fighting for the right to advance to the NCAA semifinals when we get back. And welcome back to DeSanto Field in Cleveland, Ohio. 1-1 the score. 4th-ranked Calvin against 19th-ranked Case Western Reserve. The Spartans struck first in the first half. In the 37th minute of action, Selden Magruder, his 8th goal of the season. He took a ball on the right side, dribbled, shot up into the upper 90 of the goal. Nice goal for Magruder, but Selden made a key mistake on the other side of the field, and one that I think he certainly felt bad for doing, but just a tough mistake to make, where he was called for a handball inside the box on a corner kick attempt. And again, looked pretty clear from the replays we saw during halftime. And so, on the resulting penalty kick, it was Jacob Whitty in the 44th minute who scored his 17th goal of the year to even the score 1 apiece. And we're kind of back where we started, Marcy, where a tie score and both these teams trying to figure each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, again, it's a very, I want to say, even game in regards to where the play's been, even though if you look at, the first half stats, Calvin has had 5 corners to K0 and has had a handful more shots. But while they're getting shots, they haven't been anything besides the one that Charlie Fink saved off of the first corner before the converted penalty kick that have been super dangerous. I think Case seems to be really kind of dropping well defensively, getting a lot of people centrally in the box, which is forcing shots from distance for Calvin, and they just haven't been able to convert.
Shot by Alex Bessel off the bat here pretty quickly, but goes wide. Well, early aggressive attack there for the Spartans. Some fresh legs out there as Bessel and Senft, the team's 2 key attackers, along with Winter, all got some rest at the end of the first half. Meanwhile, for Calvin, they only made 1 substitution the entire half, and that was Mason Smith who came on. So they played a very small roster here today, whereas the Spartans brought in 6 subs throughout the course of the first half. And a player down for Case Western Reserve. That is Winter. He gets back up, though. Ekberg buying a little bit of time, comes forward, tries to launch it long for Bessel, header to the near side. Wu trying to track it down in the corner, and whistle blows, and I'm not sure if they called a foul on the near side or if they called it out of bounds. I believe it was a foul call. So that one will go against Wu. Second half of action underway. One of these 2 teams trying to be the first to punch their ticket to the NCAA semifinals in Greensboro, North Carolina. Near side now. That's Weber. He sends a long ball forward. Middle of the field, Weber got his foot on that one. A little more direct here early on here for the Spartans.
Again, we've talked about that first 5 is very, very important, and Coach Bianco and Coach Souders both know that. So I'm not surprised that you see kind of both teams coming out very quickly. I think that Case is looking to go north or go to goal as quick as possible and then just get opportunities to try and create something, as they just created a corner right here. Yeah. They know the importance of getting one early, getting up, and then being able to maintain that lead.
Well, this will be the first corner kick of the game for Case Western Reserve, and Zachary Senft will come to the near side to take it. Again, we haven't seen a lot of these today, but watch out for number 24, Nathan Ekberg, on the set pieces and corner kicks. He could be so dangerous getting on the other end of these. Senft sends that one long into the pile of people before it's finally cleared away, and not much of an attempt there, although Ekberg might have gotten ahead on it, but a little too long to redirect. Now on the counterattack, this is a chance for Calvin, cutting along the outside, driving into the box, into the middle, just wide of the mouth of the goal, and overrunning it a bit was Whitty. He had a good opportunity. The pressure's still on, though. Adams gets that one knocked away. Well, the field is opened up a little bit more early on here, Marcy, in this second half as Case Western Reserve has gotten more aggressive, and in turn, that has allowed Calvin to get a little bit more aggressive as well.
Well, that's just one thing. When you keep players back, as obviously Case did on the corner, they have to be good 1v1 defenders. They're probably not your strongest players out of the air. You're going to send those players forward to try and finish, but they have to be good 1v1 defenders. And you can't have situations where Ziv steps in on a very, very high-end forward in McCaw, who then gets end line and very luckily overplays that ball that's coming across in what would have been a 1-on-0 situation.
That one played to the middle. Fink smothers it. Not to mention, by the way, that you take your best defender in Ekberg and you move him all the way forward on those. He's got to get back at some point, but that's going to take time. So that does leave those counter-strike opportunities open. If you are Calvin in that situation, they are so dangerous in getting downfield, those quick counter-strikes. Score, though, remains tied just about 5 minutes in to the second half of the game. Again, for the Calvin fans watching out there, no good news coming from nearby Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where Emory has taken a 2-0 lead in the volleyball championships. They're in the third set. That against Calvin. Fink has to hurry up on that one. Lytle tried to guide it into him and did a good job holding off the defender just long enough. I get the feeling we're in for a dogfight here in the second half of this one. And this hasn't been one of those games that's been super physical. It's just been a back and forth, well-played game so far.
It's good soccer. It's what you'd expect to see at the Elite 8 level, but it's just good soccer. Good decisions, very good players technically, tactics that are obviously looking to take advantage of opponents, but also take advantage of your own strengths.
Senft gets wrestled down there. That'll set up the free kick. Weber tried to roll it forward a little bit further, but gets it called back. This will be from about 50 yards out. Long kick in, holds up a little bit. Opportunity on that one. Can he get through the traffic? It can. Vector deflects it. Headed towards the sideline, and they'll say throw him for Case Western Reserve. From deep in Calvin territory. The Spartans, not a team that's going to do a lot on long throws. Although it looks like they may try to pull one here. Nope, go short with it. We saw a great long throw in last week here when Capital was in town for the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. Pace looks like it might be settling in a little bit more with 38 minutes in, although as I say that, down the field quickly. Far side, it's Adams. And taken away, although not cleared away. Lytle with a good defensive play to take that away from Adams, but cleared it right to another attacking player. Unfortunate that that didn't turn into more than it was. This will be Twig from the near side. Gives off to Olsen. Olsen with a give and go, gets it back, middle of the field, dangerous play. That is McCaw, who's been fairly quiet today. This will be Senft. Nice ball forward. Bessel was going in the wrong direction, though. Those two have created such a chemistry with each other in the 2 years they played. Senft, the transfer from LaSalle. Bessel, the 4th-year senior for Case Western Reserve. From the corner, skied high. Over the football goalposts. which have laid dormant here for the last week since the end of the Spartan football season. Back to the defense. Vector. Looks like Justin Recklau out here, the Lewis Center, Ohio product, in the second half. He played in the first half, did not start.
You talk about versatility, though, that players can play multiple positions. So obviously Justin Recklau went in more as an outside mid in the first half, and now he's playing an outside defender in the second half.
It's a little bit of a strategy shift here. Maybe more than anything, it gives the opportunity to move. As that one in the middle, Fink is able to get on it. Well, Charlie Fink had to throw his body in front of that one. An opportunity for Bobby McCaw. And again, mentioned McCaw had been quiet in the first half. He's scored 20 goals this season. So certainly a threat in there. And the whistle blows.
For Calvin to continue to get these chances, I think they're going to need to continue to do exactly what they're doing there, where you saw overlapping between your three forwards. In the first half, they've been playing a lot of north to south. You just see them attacking straight up and straight back in regards to the three up front. But in that situation, you saw some movement. And that allowed Whitty and McCaw to actually switch positions, which opened up defensive errors, got McCaw in, and Fink had to make a very big save.
Chance here is Calvin starting to look more aggressive. Olsen from the near side. So throw in here now for Calvin. Hunter Olsen. Good ball forward, but unable to handle it there was McCaw. Well, McCaw was an MIA first team selection for the second time in his career this year. Fourth in all of Division III in points entering the weekend. Tied for seventh in goals, eighth in assists. He has 20 goals, 12 assists this year. Was a second team All-American last year. Very talented player, one of many for this Calvin team. Senft, space to work, has a few defenders to get around. Swings it far side. Back into the middle, but nobody home. Winter that time. Not sure if he expected Senft to be running on that one, but a little bit of a misplaced ball there for Winter. A lot of pressure being applied by Bessel here, who has run from one side of the field to the other. Might be one of those situations where Bessel, knowing that he's going to get a little bit of a break as that ball bounces into Fink's hands.
The job in a one front, in a 4-5-1 or 4-2-3-1 situation is to put pressure on the back line. you're going to have your midfielders pushing on, but they're going to actually withdraw and play a little bit more as holding players. So allow that outside back to kind of come onto them instead of them pressing, unless if you switch into a high pressure situation. So your forward job is to press them. And you might have a little bit of help from Winter, but he has defensive responsibilities.
Wu on the attack, but taken away again. Lytle pushing forward. You don't see that too often. Monta to the near side. This will be Wu. Good ball movement here. Wu trying to get around the defender. Launches one towards the goal. Sliding attempt and a diving save. The save is made by Chris Morrish, who has not had many chances today, but diverts that one there. And with so much pressure coming forward, a chance on the counter, but the foul will go against Adams. And so the free kick for Case Western Reserve, and a yellow card issued to the bench for Calvin. So head coach Ryan Souders draws the yellow. Clearly objecting to that call. Well, the yellow on the bench doesn't necessarily do a whole lot unless the bench continues to be vocal to a certain extent. And it might, to a certain degree, limit what you could say to a referee. You want to be careful at this point if you're Coach Souders.
Sometimes, though, the job of the coach is to fight for your team. If you feel that they're either consistently or in big situations getting calls that they shouldn't be for doing the things that you're asking, you want to show them that you have their back. You want to show them that you fight for them. You can't do it on the field as a coach. Hopefully you've done that in training and in practice, but you want to let them know. So you've got to pick and choose your moments because, like you said, again, a second yellow is not going to help your case. But by getting a yellow, if you feel it's warranted, it could just show your team that you have their back. You're there, you're watching, you're supporting what they're doing, and you feel that it's an appropriate style of play.
Score tied at 1. 37th minute goal for Selden Magruder for Case Western Reserve. A 44th minute goal on a penalty kick for Jacob Whitty. For Calvin. That coming after a handball called in the box on a corner kick. Another threat. Middle of the field cleared away. Ekberg got a foot on it. Back to the defender. Winter knocks it down. Boy, the crowd here at Case Western Reserve is getting loud every time the ball is moving in that direction now, trying to urge their team on to a win. Second time in program history that Case Western Reserve has hosted the sectional rounds. The first time was in 2006. Trying to advance to the semifinals for the first time.
It's interesting with this Calvin team, especially in the attack, for as strong as the 5 are, they're playing a little bit reactive. I feel like they should be doing a little bit more movement off the ball to just create those angles, try and disrupt a good back line for Case. And it's almost like they're reacting after the ball's being played, which is allowing Case to step in and just kind of pick off those plays. They're going to need a little bit more movement off the ball in order to create those passing opportunities and those supporting angles that are going to break down a back line.
There'll be a goal kick upcoming here for Morrish. Morrish taking his time. In the NCAA Volleyball Championships, Emory has just defeated Calvin in 3 sets. Second volleyball championship in Emory University history. So Calvin trying to salvage the evening here tonight. Senf trying to avoid that, makes a move. A ball comes to the middle and cleared away again, but the pressure's starting to be applied again by the Spartans. Far side, McCaw. Shot! Goal! And Calvin will take the lead. Mobbed in the middle of the field, it was Hunter Olsen with the goal. His 13th goal of the season, and Calvin regains the lead, takes the lead for the first time today, 2-1 now the score. So 26 minutes, 20 seconds left, and Calvin a chance, if they can hold on to the lead here, to make another NCAA semifinal appearance. I would imagine Marcy, especially with this team, they're not parking the bus just yet either.
Oh, absolutely not. Something that soccer connoisseurs, I like to say, would say that the 2-1 score is the worst score in the game of soccer because it's so easily a game that can come right back in. Calvin's going to want to press and get a third goal as quickly as possible just to solidify a 2-goal lead. And Case needs to get back in the game very quickly so they don't get that 2-goal lead. But a 2-1 score is the worst score you can
Senft! Goal! No, just wide. Senft put that one close to target, but it sails just wide of the net. So with 25 minutes left now, a dangerous opportunity there. Can Senft run on this one? Plays it off his back heel, but back to the goalkeeper. Running onto it was Bessel, who is so dangerous applying pressure in those situations.
One thing is we haven't seen Zachary Senft attack as much as we normally have. He's normally one who's constantly taking shots and constantly putting pressure. And I feel like he's kind of been more of the assist, the person making the passes. That opportunity that he is so dangerous with both his right and his left foot. Plus he attacks down the flank. He can also cut in and Bessel will overlap or underlap him. He's going to need to start to step up his shooting game because he is very lethal when he takes shots, especially if they're on frame.
Lytle sends it forward, clears it out. Whistle blows, and the foul will go against the Spartans. So free kick here. This is Vector from the far side. Or is he coming up? No, that's not Vector. Free kick comes on. It was Vector who took it and cleared out. We've seen Vector take a couple of the free kicks. We've also seen him as a target on some of those. And we'll get a substitution here for Calvin. Just their second sub of the entire game as Lucas Albrecht will come in, the senior out of Plymouth Christian. He scored the third goal of the game yesterday for Calvin. Calvin playing a bit more of the possession game here right now. And rightfully so, with a 1-goal lead and 23 minutes left in this quarterfinal matchup.
Calvin is playing what I like to call just sideline to sideline. If you watch when they're attacking, their three forwards, especially the two flanks, are getting right up on that sideline on the right and left. They are trying to create massive gaps in that back line. McCaw's playing center, but if you watch, you have one on the right side all the way to the sideline. But even what normally happens is that weak side or outside mid tucks in a little bit, but that's not happening. They are staying all the way on the other side, so that long diagonal ball, as you just saw played, can be on because they're playing so wide.
And the pressure applied here. Bessel trying to run on it, gets tripped up but keeps possession. This could be dangerous. Rushes towards the box, centers it. Quick touch pass over to Senf. Senf looking back for Bessel. Bessel ran over the top of it and was called offsides anyway. The flag went up as Bessel couldn't get back on. And with 21:52 to go, while Case Western Reserve has certainly looked more dangerous on the attack since the goal, has not found the equalizer yet. Ekberg. The ball is played back. Out of play. Last touch McCaw. Spartan ball. Headed over. Out of play again. This time possession will stay with Calvin. Well, we mentioned the offensive prowess of this Calvin team, as this is another opportunity here for Olsen. But the ball spun out. Their defensive prowess is certainly there as well. One of the best defensive teams in the country. Chris Morrish, the goalkeeper, has allowed just 9 goals all year, although that does include 2 goals in the last 2 days. One here today, the goal scored by Magruder, and then one yesterday against Penn State Behrend. The defensive abilities of this team, as the clock continues to tick down, will become more and more of a central focus. That one forward, Fink. A good job coming out to get it. As we approach the 20-minute remaining mark. The 70th minute of play here in Cleveland, Ohio. 2-1 the score. Booted away by Fink to the midfield. Recklau, the freshman, ran back on that one. Good job defensively. And we will get a substitution here. And interesting is Jacob Hall will come into the game for Alex Bessel. Another chance here for Calvin. And it will be a corner kick. Something else this Calvin team has done well this year. They have taken more corners than any other team in Division III. Long ball in. Fink up to the task. Have to be impressed with the poise of the freshman Fink. He's played well today, despite allowing the 2 goals, one of them on a PK. And a defense for Case Western Reserve that has played well all game.
At some point, I don't think just yet, but pretty soon, Case is going to have to start to press this back line a little bit more than allowing their lone forward to do it. You're going to have to start to push those outside mids a little bit higher and look to create turnovers.
Ekberg guides it back to Fink. Seventeen and a half minutes now left in this one. Wu tracks it down. Dangerous ball. Can Owen get on it? Olsen, excuse me, get on it. He cannot.
I know something that Coach Bianco mentioned when I talked to him earlier is because of how many minutes he had to play his starters yesterday and just threw obviously the time, the 110th minute and into PKs, he was going to have to use his bench, and you could definitely see that he's doing that. He's brought in Max Clem. He's brought in a couple of other players who you haven't seen get a ton of minutes in the last several games. And Jacob Hall as a forward. He's using Justin Recklau as a defender. Now he's obviously moving Justin Recklau back up. But it's the opportunities and the diversity and versatility to be able to play so many players in such an important game, despite the age that they are, and have them give you that depth. It's something that you look for when you're actually trying to recruit. You're recruiting players that are going to be able to play multiple minutes in multiple situations immediately. You want to bring in impact players, players that are going to impact your game as soon as they step onto the field as a Spartan. So I think that he's done a good job of doing that, especially if he feels confident to be able to bring these players to the game.
15:55 remaining. We'll get a few substitutions here as well. Brady Dalton in. Throw-in comes deep in Calvin territory. Trying to turn on that one on the far side, but it will go out past the goal. Two to one the score. Calvin leading in this one. And the Spartans hoping for a late strike to even the score. Into the corner. And a throw in. Wu will take it. That was Jacob Hall who chased that one down. Crowd trying to rile up the Spartans here. Weber. Ball the edge of the 18-yard box. Lytle comes up. He'll push. Gets deflected out. Danger's there. If that gets deflected forward, it's going to cause some trouble with Lytle all the way up. The last line of defense, just one man back in Ekberg.
The only thing that could have been their saving grace is the only player forward for Calvin was McCaw, who would have been the one to do the deflection. So Ekberg would have had a couple of minutes. But yeah, it's the idea that they need to make sure that the second defender is close enough to be able to cover the first defender. It's that pressure cover idea that the distance between the two needs to be close enough that you actually can cover your first defender.
Probably the fact that there was only one defender back and one player forward even speaks to the state of the game right now. Case Western Reserve needing a goal and Calvin trying to protect their one-goal lead. Ekberg sends that one forward. Winter takes it off the chest. Well, Calvin's trying to get aggressive again here. Levin trying to turn on that one. That was Mason Smith who sent the shot high. And a chance for Case Western Reserve to regroup. Looks like Alex Bessel might be getting set to check back in. And he will come in. And you see head coach Ryan Souders came all the way out to midfield to make sure that his team knew that Bessel is coming back in, because Bessel's speed really does change the way this game is played. He's someone that has to be marked. Fink gets it back quickly. 12:40 remaining. Bessel turns on it, gets it near side. This is Senft. Just a step behind him, though. Weber finds Wu. Wu pressing forward. Into the corner, it's Bessel. Bessel, middle of the field, looking to get it to Senft. Deflects back to Wu. And cleared away once again. Dalton, nice play to keep it in a dangerous spot.
When you have the line in front of you like Bessel, and with Bessel's speed, I'd be encouraged to see Bessel take that player one-on-one and try and get a corner, try and get himself end line to make it a little bit more dangerous instead of pulling it back to the 20 past the 18. When you're down, you can't afford to go negative unless if you absolutely have to. Every single touch should be positive to try and get numbers toward that goal and create an opportunity, a deflection, something that's going to give you the chance to at least tie it up. You don't have time to go negative right now.
Dangerous opportunity here, but once again, Ekberg collects at his feet, trying to turn, and does, sending it forward, but it stays with Calvin. Twig gets it in, and Ekberg will let it roll back to Fink. 11 minutes to go. Nerve-wracking moments, I'm sure, for both of these teams at the moment. Weber. Senft deflects off the leg of Winter, who came forward, but an easy one for Morris to handle. Well, for Case Western Reserve, Selden Magruder, the goal scorer from earlier today, has gotten up and is standing on the sidelines, and he'll provide another opportunity of forward. It'll be interesting to see. I imagine he'll come in as an extra body up top. They're not going to take Bessel out at this point.
I don't think that they can, since Bessel started the game and he came out and now has come back in. If he comes off the field, Bessel's done for the game. You're not going to have one of your leading goal scorers come off. So I'll be very curious to see if we see a formation change
I was going to say, I wonder if you go to a 3-back or even if you make the change here for Dalton, and we'll see who comes out for him.
We did. It was Justin Recklau who came out, who was playing as a – they pushed him up as an outside. So I'll watch it for a second, but I'll be curious if they're just going to play a little bit lopsided, play kind of with, your 3 centrally, keep Senft on the left, unless if they're looking to move Bessel a little bit more toward the right side of play.
Shot there, and it's a goal. And that happened suddenly, quickly, and might end the hopes for the Spartans on the goal by Lucas Albrecht. Quick off the restart there. With 9:28 remaining, Calvin potentially headed here to the NCAA semifinals. 3-1 the score. It was very quick after the substitution. We're going to take another look at it here. That one into the box. Headed forward by Bessel. And into the hands of the keeper, Morris. Well, the shot came to the near post, and it beat Fink to the near post on that one. As that one forward to Magruder, his shot just wide. Magruder almost had his second goal of the game.
if you're Charlie Fink, for as good of a couple of games as you've had, some big saves, obviously the game winner yesterday, making save on that PK, a couple of big saves here. You can't have basic mistakes in a game of this importance, and giving up a near post goal from a shot about 15, 20 yards out is a mistake it could cost you the rest of your season. It's something that has to be cleaner. You're taught very early in a goalkeeping career to deny near post opportunities, to almost tailor to your near post. So to give something up from distance, that's something that might haunt him for a little bit.
Well, the freshman will have plenty of other opportunities over his career and has been brilliant this season for the team. But he sees his team now trailing 3-1. Weber, long ball in. Some contact in the box, and I believe a foul was called, although the ball was handled by Morris easily anyway. And Morris right now will be happy to take as much time off the clock as he can here. And a foul there will go against Case Western Reserve. Well, if you're the Spartans, short of a comeback here, team will have to be proud of the season they put together. The furthest in tournament history they've ever been. A young squad. They'll bring a number of key players back. But short of scoring 2 goals, they are now 6.5 minutes away from the end of their campaign. Meanwhile, Calvin, their senior class, is a little over 6 minutes away from their 3rd trip to the Final Four in the last 4 seasons. Looking for their 15th NCAA tournament win over the last 4 years. Bessel, middle of the field, cleared away. And I think they called an offside there as well. Approaching the final 5 minutes now. I wouldn't anticipate there being any substitutions at this point, as Calvin probably would not want to stop the clock here. They want to keep it running. And the Spartans wouldn't want to waste time on a substitution. And a clock will stop here and we'll get a card. I believe it's issued against Brady Dalton. The clock is stopped with 5:12 remaining. Long ball served in off the free kick. Spartans will clear it away. Far side. Calvin happy to play back and forth here. Eat some time off the clock. As they see the NCAA semifinal berth in front of them now. Magruder forward. Tries to get forward to Bessel. It's a foot race. Bessel tracks it down, has to turn towards the sideline. Now back towards the middle of the field. Plays it a little long there. Still with possession, trying to dribble through the defense. Ends up going back to Wu. Bessel slow to get up after tripping down there as Winter sends it into the middle. Bessel again gets his head on the end of that one. Weber plays it forward, but it's cleared away again, back to the defense. Ekberg, who is playing all the way up, as the Spartans needing to throw numbers forward, tracks it down. And now Vetger plays that one forward, and once again, Ekberg is going to have to secure that one.
Well, and the tricky situation is that needing so, the Spartans have switched into a 3-5-2, playing with 3 in the back, 5 across the middle, and 2 up top, opening up and leaving them exposed to gaps and situations, especially because Calvin is still playing a 3 front. So you have one-on-ones now between every defender and each of their forwards.
Marcy, as a former coach, I'm sure you have to have a little bit of admiration for Calvin not really switching to a more defensive set here.
Yeah, but you don't really need to because you're up by 2. If you're up by 1 and the game was closer, but knowing that Case still has to score 2, as long as, again, you've been holding them off as you've had the majority of the shots, you've been having the right of play in the attacking third. So in this situation, it makes almost more sense to try and get a 4th to just finalize and put that final nail in the coffin instead of sitting back, possibly giving one up. And we've seen both Case and Calvin score multiple goals in a very short amount of minutes in past games. So by continuing to put pressure, you're not allowing Case to send more numbers up. You're actually making them stay a little bit more honest and stay a little bit more defensive-minded, which is exactly what Case does not want to do.
Clock ticking, 2.5 minutes left on what appears to be the Case Western Reserve season if they cannot find 2 late goals here in the final couple of minutes. Into the corner again, and an offside called with 2 minutes remaining. Long ball forward. Senf settles it down. Can he get on it? No. Coming over to help on the play. Back to Wu. Wu's going to have to get this in quick. Magruder takes it off his knee and sends it out. Throw in for the Spartans. Just over a minute remaining now. And we will hit the minute mark here momentarily. This is Senft. Case Western Reserve still pushing, trying to get a little closer. As Senft taken down, and he will get called for the foul. And some of his frustration venting here. But that will probably just about do it here, is the amount of time that Calvin will be able to take off the clock here before they kick is probably going to be enough to prevent at least a second goal from being scored, even if Case Western Reserve was to muster the first goal to get them closer. Final 20 seconds. That rolls out past the sideline and is all but written into the books now. We get to the final 10 seconds. And Calvin will advance. For the 3rd time in the last 4 years, the Calvin College Knights are headed to the NCAA Final Four. They defeat Case Western Reserve 3-1 and will move on to the semifinals, where they will face the winner of the Messiah-Rochester game tomorrow. Calvin, now 21-1-0 on the season. Case Western Reserve, a magnificent season for the Spartans, but it comes to close with a 16-4-2 overall record with the 3-1 loss to Calvin. Well, a well-played game for both teams throughout, but Calvin showing at the end why they are where they are. The ability to score. They got the 2 late goals. The go-ahead goal scored by Olsen. That made it 2-1. And then Lucas Albrecht with the insurance goal just a few minutes later.
Well, again, what normally happens is after, a penalty kick or something that whether it should or shouldn't be called is regardless, but that didn't change the course of this game. And to be honest, I don't even think, the 2-1 score changed it. I think it was that 3-1. It was that third goal that while Case fought all the way through, you didn't see necessarily a change in play. You saw an urgency, but the Spartans should not have their heads hung. I mean, they had a great run, obviously winning the last game in the 5th PK shooter, challenging Calvin all the way through to the end. They should have their heads held high. It was a very, very good season, and returning so many players, it's only a building block of what we're going to see next year.
Well, once again, we thank you for joining us here today and throughout the weekend. The final score, Calvin College 3, Case Western Reserve University 1, as the Knights advance to the semifinals. That will be on November 30th, Friday, November 30th, as Calvin will again face the winner of the game between Messiah and Rochester tomorrow. I want to thank you all for joining us. For Marcy Schwartz, I'm John Schwartz. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a pleasant evening.